Two, one.
All right, Patriots, welcome back to this episode of Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Farmer Ryan Early, and today we have Lane Brown, chairman of the Oklahoma Teen Republicans, joining us in-house today. And Lane, very excited to have you. You've got some amazing things you're working on in advocacy and awareness to especially the youth demographic. And you made a very, very, very neat point when we first came on that the Democrats do it all the time. And so I'm glad for you to join us today and tell our viewers, our patriots, a little bit more about what you're doing in the youth movement here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ryan.
Absolutely. So can you give us just a brief background at kind of how you decided to come up with, with the Oklahoma Teen Republicans?
Yeah, for sure. So back before the election, probably like a couple weeks before the election, I was involved in politics, but I wasn't involved with grassroots people that actually get stuff done. I kind of just watched it and, posted on Twitter sometimes, and everyone knew my political ideology and I was a conservative at my school. So when I came across the Oklahoma High School Republicans, I reached out to them and I said, hey, let's get something started here in Oklahoma, because when I go to meetings, there is no young people, and that's a serious problem. Because the older generation is a bunch of great people, but they're going to eventually move on, and they need to teach and mentor these youth people in the state of Oklahoma so that we can get them involved and get them be prepared to be the next leaders of Oklahoma. So when I started this organization, it was definitely a roller coaster, because I think our first ever really interaction with anyone was the Tulsa GOP chair election, when I supported Ron Cosby for Tulsa chair. We actually endorsed him, which went against the national bylaws, but didn't go against our bylaws because we voted 5-0 to endorse him, because Ron reached out to we actually reached out to Ron. Ron collaborated with us, talked with us, told us he had a plan to bring the youth back into Tulsa, which is really important because Tulsa is actually going more purple. And the current chair had no plan, didn't even talk to us. And actually, when it all came down to it, after the convention, when Ron lost, she actually called the national chairman, which was Will Adkins, who is no longer the chairman. He termed out and graduated, and called him to get him to remove me from my position in the state of Oklahoma. Which ultimately failed, because honestly, it just turned into a big argument, caused huge division between the national organization and the state of Oklahoma, which was never restored, which was the reason that we left. And we figured we could be more independent and get more things done while we're being independent. So what I'm really trying to do in the state of Oklahoma is do something like they're doing in the state of New York, where they have a huge youth base. If you remember correctly, Ryan, Lee Zeldin actually made huge progress in the state of New York, and he had a huge youth support behind him. And I think if we can get that for every candidate, every grassroots conservative candidate in the state of Oklahoma, then we would never lose an election here.
Well, and I think that model can be applied across all states, right? If we can get the youth involved at 18, we can vote, right? In America. So and I think that again, you hit the nail on the head early on when you said that the left is targeting very heavily that youth vote, and in the past that seems to be effective, and so it warms my heart to know that there is a youth movement, and I'm assuming there is movements in other states as well. We have a lot of viewers in other states, Tennessee especially, and many other states that I think if young people had a network of other young conservatives leading them and young patriots leading them in those directions, they would. And you have a show, The Conservative Pulse, that recently started airing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And where can we find more of that at? Is that on? Do you have a Rumble channel?
Yeah, so I'm actually, I guess you could say we're actually a part of a network. It's me and this guy, and he just, Michael Watkins, he has his own show too. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're really great friends. Actually, he lives in Texas. We are part of the, I guess you could say we are a part of the same organization, except he's a part of the organization in Texas. And we work together a lot. And when we went down to Washington, D.C. for the Leadership Institute High School Summer Retreat, and we had a bunch of leadership trainings, me and Michael Watkins, really connected. And he was like, hey, let's start our own network or podcast type deal where you do Mondays and Fridays and I do Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we can really blast the youth out across the country, and you can blast it out in the state of Oklahoma. And I was like, let's do it. So yeah, right now we just have a Rumble. We were going to try out YouTube, but he says he had problems with YouTube in the past taking stuff down. I think once we get bigger, we'll eventually go out towards different social media platforms. I know we have a Facebook and a Twitter, and a Rumble, and I can give you guys all that in a minute. I would just have to find it.
No, we'll get a link up for you on the page there. So no problem. On your Rumble channel, the Conservative Pulse, they can, I'm assuming, can search the Conservative Pulse on Rumble. Should be able to pull it up.
No. It's actually a part of it's called the Patriot Chronicle Network is what it's under.
Okay.
Is what our shows are under.
Okay. Very good. We're going to take a short break, and we'll come right back and talk more about what you've got going on locally. All right, Patriots, welcome back. We are here with Lane Brown, chairman of the Oklahoma Teen Republicans. Lane, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan.
We were just talking about the local youth movement here in Oklahoma, and of course, nationally. I would like to touch on your thoughts at how you feel the party is solidified or becoming more divided as time moves into this next election cycle.
Yeah. So I really believe that Americans across the world, conservatives actually are tired of the establishment in Washington trying to dictate what we're doing locally and in our state. And that is really what's causing this great divide in the Republican Party. We've got a divide from establishment people and conservative grassroots who actually want to get stuff done for the people, and then we have the establishment who are up there just for the popularity and the money. And when that became a divide, that's really what started this revolution between real conservatives and rhinos. And right now in the state of Oklahoma, we actually are seeing that great divide from the establishment rhinos to the conservatives. Because if you remember correctly, when at the Oklahoma GOP convention, we saw the huge divide between the establishment and the conservative. We could tell what side of the room and what kind of people were conservative grassroots people and what kind of people were establishment and rhinos. So I believe that this is really becoming a huge thing that's happening in the country, actually, but with the Republican Party. I feel like people are truly fed up with the establishment in Washington.
Absolutely. And, we're starting to see more and more, I would say, grassroots movements in independent states. And I'm starting to see even that, I would say, organize into a national movement. And unfortunately, you know, with an election cycle on the loom at a federal level, especially, division in the party is traditionally never good. Um, I think we've got to find ways to educate more Americans on how we can unify under specific and alignable fundamentals. That this country was founded on, the principles that ultimately give us the freedoms to choose left or right, or free will over government
Mhm.
imposition of lockdowns and forced vaccinations and mandates. I think that without without that, we're going to continue down the pathway and ultimately leads to destruction of our
Mhm.
Constitution, to destruction of our way of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. The grassroots conservative movement is happening nationally. I mean, we're seeing it nationally because what's happening is we're electing these people into public office, and they don't even represent the Republican Party. They're not even voting or creating legislation or advocating for the platform for the Republican Party. So I think that's what really started this whole conservative grassroots movement, especially in the state of Oklahoma, because you would think a deep red state, a super majority in the legislature, we have a Republican governor. You think that we would be able to easily get conservative things passed, stuff that the people want. You think we'd be able to get it passed easily, but right now we have people in the legislature that actually aren't up there to work for what every Oklahoman wants. And what they were elected to do. And I think there's one person in particular that actually is upholding what they promised on the campaign trail, and that is actually our state superintendent, Ryan Walters. That guy has been beaten to hell in the state of Oklahoma, especially by the legislator, for promising what he was going to do on the campaign trail. So it just further proves that politics is a game. And when you do what you say you're going to do, then you get beaten to hell.
Absolutely. We had Representative J.J. Humphreys on last week. That was last week, and he's right there taking the fight to Republicans in our own backyard, right here on Capitol Hill. And you know, I think it's amazing what he did with the audit, recovering over $40 million in funds, last year. And I can't wait to see what he does again this year. I know he's got several committees that are investigating some issues, and I hope they find any missing money that could be used to better our school systems, our roads. I drive down I-40 and 240 every day, and it's like playing Frogger dodging the potholes. And
Mhm.
I've been all over the country. Road systems and infrastructure, right, are definitely an issue when we look at true infrastructure, and that's something that I think has been intentionally uh, you know sabotaged, if you will, over the years. Monies have been diverted into private funds, slush funds. There's been a lot of money that's been taken out in roadways and went to overpaid, under-delivered contracts. So I'm glad to
Mhm.
know that we do have some legislators up on the hill that are making sure that accountability is held at every level, and I think that's something that needs to transgress onto Washington is accountability. Politicians typically don't have any accountability, and when they do, it's made up. It's not factual. So I think if we can get local policies and local lawmakers holding local officials, their own legislators, co-legislators, accountable for the bills and for the monies, I think that will ultimately set a standard for moving up to Washington.
I 100% agree with you.
Um, Lane, do you have any estimates of generally? how many teen Republican Americans are currently involved or in some type of network like yours.
So I think actually in the high school Republicans, before a lot of states left, we had at least thousands of members that were part of the high school National High School Republicans. Now in the state of Oklahoma, with us just starting not even a year ago, a little under a year ago, and we've been having these uphill battles with a lot of with the Oklahoma GOP. And the Tulsa GOP and all these other organizations and people that have put our name through the absolute mud. um, we have slowly started now advancing our recruitment. That's something that we've been really focused on. I think the last time I checked, we had like 80 people, but that wasn't, that was a couple of weeks ago. The last time I checked, we have a sign up form, but I'll be honest with you, Ryan. It's hard to find people in the state of Oklahoma, especially that are my age and in high school and teenagers that want to be involved in politics and want to make a change. A lot of high schoolers, a lot of teenagers have their minds on something else, which is completely reasonable. I understand that. But I also believe that the way our country is heading is that we need a lot of young people to be politically aware of what's going on.
Absolutely. That's why I couldn't be happier to have you on the show today, and hopefully we can help spread that message. So we're going to take a short break and come back and chat more about what we can do to get more people on board with your movement. All right, welcome back to Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Farmer Ryan Early, and we have Lane Brown on, chairman of the Oklahoma Republican Teen Republicans, and also has a Rumble show helping educate young community leaders and bring them together under the conservative cause. And so that he can be found, more information on that can be found at the Patriot Chronicle Network on Rumble. Patriot Chronicle Network. Lane, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks, Ryan.
I know you just got back from a trip to Washington. How long were you out there for, and what were you doing?
So actually, yes, I was out in the swamp. I came back last Wednesday. We left on Saturday. So we were up there for it was the YLS Youth Leadership School with the Leadership Institute, which has been training conservatives for Lord knows how long. And we were up there for their big like National Youth Leadership School. 2 days of trainings, and then they let us stay an extra day to watch the 4th of July in Washington, D.C., which was an awesome experience, probably like once in a lifetime type of deal. It was awesome. And really what the 2 days were, we were learning how to be true leaders in the conservative movement, as in being youth coordinators on campaigns, how to like conduct yourself on a campaign. A lot of great stuff. If you haven't checked them out, they're really good people and a great organization. But we ultimately all got scholarships to go. It was all paid for because I would never pay to go down there because it's so expensive. So yeah, that's what we were doing in Washington, D.C. It's always an awesome experience when you get to go down there.
Yeah, it's enlightening to say the least. You know, I was in D.C., the swamp, and that is very accurately describing. It feels quite a bit eerie once you enter the district. It's definitely ominous. And so I was out there pre-COVID. You know, we joke around that we may have been the ones that potentially brought COVID back to Oklahoma. we were there for the presidential prayer breakfast back in again 2020 in February, and it was actually there was a very famous photo that circulated the internet of President Trump holding up the exoneration newspaper with Nancy Pelosi to his right in the background. So me and my wife were about 50 feet stage right of that. And so it was definitely experienced. 168 nations were represented in that room. And, you know, we came back sicker than a dog. And a week and a half, 2 weeks later, they shut the stadium down for the ball game. So due to COVID, it was kind of a crazy deal. And, you know, I don't think we actually had COVID, but we came back pretty sick, and I say it's just from spending 4 days in DC. Everybody comes back with something, but it was an experience. Got to see, tour a lot of the buildings. I thought it was very interesting that one side of the street can be a state thing, and I'll use cannabis for example. Cannabis on one side of the street is different areas, and a lot of those divisions run right down the middles of streets. And so
Yeah.
what's illegal on one side of the street is legal on the other. It's crazy. And it's a decriminalized, district, right? It's a district. Marijuana is decriminalized there. However, it's not federally. So any federal property, any federal guidelines, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Washington D.C. is quite the experience. It's the swamp. I don't know who came up with it being named the swamp, but that is like an exact. That's like perfect name for Washington D.C.
Yep, and all the swamp creatures live there. Except for Pelosi, right? She's now in Italy or over there doing her ambassadorship. Congrats to her. Yeah, man, it was definitely an experience. First time me and the wife had been, and last time I'll probably go back if I can help it. I have no intentions of returning. But the history was great. Got to visit some battlefields and see some of the, some of America's deep history. This was pretty, I guess, energizing, just as much as the knowing what goes on there was life sucking, light
Yep.
sucking, I should say.
Mhm.
And so you were out there doing leadership training in DC, correct?
Yeah.
With the, I'm sorry, what group did you say it was again?
Leadership Institute.
The Leadership Institute. Okay, very good. And what were kind of the main takeaways on that?
Oh man, I think the main takeaways. I mean, I have a whole notebook full of just notes from all they had. I mean, all kinds of speakers, but I think the main takeaways were really. I think the number one takeaway from this whole leadership thing is when you're running a campaign, you may be right, but that doesn't mean that you can win. Because it's oftentimes in campaigns the people that are right on the right side and are right about what they're talking about, and they're bringing facts and they're bringing stats into what they're talking about, don't always win the election. So I think it's and the second thing really is you got to have a youth base on your campaign, especially in a swing state, or if you're trying to upset a Democratic opponent in a Democrat state. You have to have that youth base that's truly going to put you over the finish line. And I think that even if we're in a red state, I feel like a youth base can really, I said this earlier, I feel like a youth base can get these conservative grassroots candidates over the finish line in primaries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to need it, right? They're going to need that vote, and again, that is there's a larger group of voters coming into the voting age range than there is of voters going out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very important that especially these grassroots conservative Christian candidates need to make sure that they're engaging with that group. So very glad to see you out there leading the charge here in Oklahoma. and we're going to take just a brief break, and we'll return. All right, Patriots, welcome back. We've got Lane Brown on with us today. Lane, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Now, I understand that you have some ongoings in history with the FFA and agriculture. Of course, we love talking ag, and something we could probably go on for hours about. But can you tell me a little bit about what your background is and how you got involved in ag?
So I got involved in FFA when I'm gonna be real honest. I'm not involved with the animal aspect of FFA. I guess you can say I did an agri-science project over pumpkins. And I'll be honest, I really wasn't going to do a project. I was just going to join FFA and be in the class. And the ag teacher was like, well, you have a good speaking voice and all this. You should do a project. So she put me with someone that was insanely smart about the subject of pumpkins that we were doing. And I was like, all right, so you're putting me in a project that I have no idea anything about pumpkins, but let's do it, I guess. So we grew pumpkins. I think we grew ornamental pumpkins, the little pumpkins, I think. And we put lime in like one raised grow bed, and then we put lime in like no lime in the other, and we were like trying to see what grew better with lime, something like that. It was last year. Let's just say I think we ended up getting like I'm trying to think. I think we got third in at the Agri-Science State Fair. Um, yeah, I think we got third. And then me and a buddy, we did a bug box, and I think we had a really good bug and someone stole it, but I think we got seventh. I think it's sitting up over there, but that's what I do in ag. I'm not involved I was gonna do an animal, and then I was like, well, I'm involved in politics. I do sports. It's gonna be really hard to should juggle all those things. So I just decided to do a project that I could just do during school and not have to worry about um, juggling that with politics and sports.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Agriculture. I always recommend anyone that is uncertain of their, future, etc., to look into
Mhm.
ag sciences, ag tech. I myself hold a patent in ag tech for a ecologically sustainable pesticide, Blue Magic, um, that was developed and discovered right here in Oklahoma under my program that I was the general contractor for Northwestern Oklahoma State University during their industrial hemp pilot program. And so got to plunge deep. I mean, I've always grown up on a farm, horse farm mainly, not a traditional crop farm, and over the last several years have immersed fully into farming. And I've got several projects ongoing now where I am now breeding my own quail. I've got 6 different breeds of quail, and I've done a pheno selection, genotypical selection, right, for fast growing, using a Texas A&M quail and some Japanese Cotornix, and some bobwhites. And so, ag and breeding and production naturally, I think is important. Preservation of heirloom seeds and even genetics in pigs, in goats, in cattle, sheep is something that's not really talked about, not looked about in the FFA especially. And I love the FFA and everything they do. Um, they don't like so much what I do by taking pure breeds and making not pure breeds, right? Actually going the other way, trying to get back more to purebred. So like right now, I've got a landrace Finn goat, which is native to Finland. There's about 5,247 of them, according to Google, in the world, all in Finland,
Hmm.
as it's known. I got the dog, as we call him, from a local exotic farm that shut down here about a year ago. And he is the coolest dadgum goat ever. I had no idea what a Finn goat was when I got him. And I'll see if maybe we can get a picture up in here. But he, they say that the Finn goat is one of the oldest goats known, over 4,000 year history in Finland, which is pretty cool. They're very hardy. They can live on tree bark and shrubs. They require no grass like most traditional goats do. And they produce a lot of milk, up to a gallon of milk a day, which is pretty cool. So I am, and again, dog is an intact male, uh, which means we can utilize him as a stud. And so I've started crossing him with boar goats, with American pygmies, and with shoot, what is the Spanish milk goat, and essentially trying to and kinder goat. I've got kinder goats. Trying to create a more hardy goat that will handle higher temperatures, less water, less food, sustain on sagebrush, etc. We'll see what happens. It's probably going to be a lifelong project, but that's the fun part of it.
That's really awesome. I don't think I've ever heard of a. I think you said it was a Finn goat. I
Finn
don't
goat.
think I've ever. Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a mess. You know, somebody bottle fed him. I don't know how he got here, what his origins were. I checked into everything. It's not illegal to have him. I don't have to have any special licensing or anything. They're not endangered. However, they're just not typically in America. I can't find a record of a transaction of a Finn goat anywhere in America ever. So kind of crazy. But he's got a personality to say the least. Very friendly. Stands when he stands on his hind legs, almost 7 feet tall.
Mm.
Very big goat. Right, they're probably one of the larger goat breeds. But kids love him. He comes right up, wants a treat, wants to pet, and he's a good little goat. So. All right, Patriots, welcome back. We've got Lane Brown on, chairman of the Oklahoma Teen Republicans, and amazing young man. I've enjoyed our talks already, and I know we've still got more to talk about. Lane, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ryan.
So, I'd like to talk a little bit about a big problem that I always try to bring awareness to, especially here in Oklahoma, but really it's a national problem. And that is the Chinese, the CCP, coming here, buying lands under false entities, false names, etc. And we know we've talked about this several times on my show. We know as of now there's at least 300,000 acres currently owned by subsidiaries of the CCP, and we're not allowed to own any land over there, or any ownership of any assets in China. And there are several legislators that believe that we should enforce that same law here. And so, I've talked with Senator Jake Merritt, former Senator Jake Merritt about this. I've talked to Roger Stone about this, and even J.J. Humphrey, Representative Humphrey, who just last week, that it's a problem, and that's just what we know about. We know of 300,000 or so acres, so that means the real number is probably double that. And why are they buying farmland? Why are they buying areas over the water tables that have clean water? It's the same as the billionaires we're seeing, come all over the country and buy up our farmland here in the Midwest. And our water rights, that's something else that I always try to touch on. My background is water purification. And so knowing, the value of clean water is literally everything that life revolves around. I know that a lot of these lands that are being purchased by foreign aid entities or by just billionaires like Gates and others, even Elon's buying up large amounts of farmland, and a lot of that is in low areas. That's not really farmland. It's for the water table, and I think that's something we all got to watch in the future. Is doing things now to ensure that we're protecting our environment and our water and our resources, and not continuing, some of the practices like the use of glyphosates and Roundup, which we know is cancer causing, yet it's still allowed to be used. A recent study just showed that 85% of Americans in the last 7 days have been exposed to high levels of glyphosates, and up to 99% of Americans in the last 45 days. That's pretty staggering, knowing that is a leading cause of cancer in many other countries, and according to the World Health Organization, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I think it's a failure on our national security, or our national security as a whole, to even allow the CCP to buy American farmland, because I think we all know what would happen is if American companies went over to China and tried to buy up land over there, they may start World War III with China and the United States. So I think that it should be the same law should be enforced here that it is over there. They shouldn't be able to buy American farmland. And any American farmland that's owned by the CCP should be absolutely removed, and they should be removed. They shouldn't be allowed to own American farmland. And I agree with you on that. I think it's a failure on our national security that we're just allowing the Chinese Communist Party to own American farmland. It's absurd.
Well, and it goes beyond that. You said it right. It is a failure of national security on every front, and ultimately, treasonous, in my opinion. And China continues to do things like using TikTok, big tech in general, to misinform, disinform, confuse our youth, and they use that same platform as a means of controlled education in China. And so the fact that we still allow that to happen, that our legislators, even though there's been a few attempts at shutting that down, that seems to get swept under the rug. Even President Trump tried to ban that, and threaten to pull their rights to distribute here. And now it's been overridden. Now they're back, worse, better than before. So that's disheartening, to say the least. And social media now is, I don't care if you're 8 to 80. Now the majority of even senior citizens are getting involved in social media, and that is probably one of the main sources of news today. Around the world is Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms, True Social. the Patriot Party News Network. You want real news and truth,
Mhm.
those are out there too. Of course, Patriot Chronicle Network, where your show airs. So look forward to catching more of those as well. And so, where should young conservatives go for social media?
Man, a lot of young conservatives are actually on Twitter. Now that there's no more, I guess you could say, silencing on the Twitter front after Elon bought Twitter. In fact, Twitter, it's funny because Twitter has, what's that word? Fact checked Joe Biden's tweets before, ever since Elon bought Twitter. So a lot of young conservatives are on Twitter. That's where I am. That's where I talk generally because I mean, you can some of them are on Instagram, but reaching out on the Instagram front, you're reaching out to a lot of bots, and you get it's not really a whole outreach on Instagram. I think Twitter is probably one of the best youth outreaches. That's where everyone is now. That's where all the young people are. That's where they tweet about sports. They tweet about games. They tweet about anything on Twitter. So that's where I try to reach the youth. That's where I try to reach all the people at. And I know this is probably not something that goes out to the youth, but I think Moto knows, but I use Facebook a lot. I love Facebook. Even though it's owned by Mark Zuckerberg, I love Facebook. And that's where you can troll some people big time. It's really fun. So I would recommend Twitter because not everyone likes Facebook, but that's where I am on Twitter.
Very good, very good. I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. On Facebook mainly when I'm not in jail. Um, I'm in jail right now. I'm in jail for I don't know how long, or shadow banned. So, well, my second or third profile, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Mainly for political stuff, but also for education on healthcare. I educate a lot on homeopathic alternatives to traditional, you know,
Hmm.
allopathic medication. And I've been definitely shadow banned for about 8 years now. I mean, I've been able to advertise on any social media platform in like 7 years, so it's ridiculous. Um, but I will say, the Patriot Party News Network um, gives me a platform to host a show on, to get access to, more patriots, and as your show grows, I would definitely give you an endorsement to get a youth advocate like yourself on that network. So keep doing what you do, and keep advocating in that area, and we'll see what we can do to help give you a bigger platform to spread your message.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, sir. We're going to take just a short break, and we'll come back and wrap up. All right, welcome back, Patriots. We've got Lane Brown, chairman of the Oklahoma Teen Republicans. Lane, thanks again for joining us, bud.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the buzz in the Patriot movement right now is around Sound of Freedom, Jim Caviezel's new faith-based movie, and I have to admit I have not seen it yet. We're going to try and catch that soon as I can break away from the farm. But you said you have plans to go see it this weekend.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to see it this Saturday, and I just wanted to point something out. I have it pulled up here on my phone. Since Sound of Freedom has been released to the movie theaters, they made over $14 million in the box office, beating Indiana Jones. at 11 million. I just think that this speaks. I think the numbers speak for themselves about this movie. Um, I know Netflix and Hulu and one more other streaming platform refused and denied to allow it on their platform. And I know that it hasn't been covered by the media. And I know very few celebrities are talking about the movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know it's around the parameters of child sex trafficking, exposing that. So I'm really, really interested to see what the movie's about.
Me as well. I've heard nothing but good. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. And by good, I mean moving. Everyone that I've heard that's watched it so far, you know, spot on. And again, the child trafficking and a lot of the exposés that it's bringing to light, I think, are again moving, enlightening, sad, disheartening,
Hmm.
energizing, and in the sense that good has to triumph over evil. We have to win this fight, and we are in a spiritual fight. Have been for a long time, but I think in this time we are seeing it play out. We say it all the time. We're watching a movie uh, play out in real life, right? And the actors on
Hmm.
Capitol Hill are nothing more. I think time will soon tell. So,
Hmm.
um, I did hear. I guess here, of course, like everybody knows, President Trump was indicted.
Hmm.
Was it last week? And I look forward to seeing more about that case, more about the evidence, um, and hearing a little more about what really I guess my ultimate prayer is that this will bring more to light because this is the first president to be indicted for crimes while in office after he's out of office. Well, cool. Can we make that a trend? Because I can think of a few others that are still kicking that should probably have an investigation done as well.
Hmm.
Let alone we still haven't seen Hillary's emails. So, um, yeah. I mean, I'm just talking news now, buddy. So,
Yeah, well, the the indictment of former President Donald Trump is a political attack so that he doesn't run in 2024. I think everyone knows that, and everyone sees that, and I believe that this indictment isn't going to hold up in court. And I also agree with his defense on it. He's running for president of the United States. There's absolutely no way that there's going to be an impartial jury for his trial. It's literally there's just no way. And someone of his famousness, I guess you could say, in the United States, and him being president of the United States, making a lot of people mad. I don't think there would ever be an impartial jury for him, anyways. But I still think that his defense team's going to do a great job in throwing this case away. Just like they did when in the Senate hearing when he was impeached by the House and they had the Senate hearing. I don't know if you watched that, but his defense was so good. I mean, they exposed the prosecutor side, or I guess you could say the people that were prosecuting Donald Trump to be charged during the Senate hearing, but they actually showed whole clips. They would combat what the prosecutors were doing. So the prosecutors would show just a clip, like a small clip of what he said during January 6th. And then it would be like a march down to the Capitol or something dumb like fight like hell. That was one of their main one, was fight like hell. And they actually showed the whole clip, and in return, that's why he was never officially impeached and convicted in the Senate. Because when the fake news media gets exposed, people actually start waking up. So, and I think we're actually seeing that with his indictment. So it'll be quite interesting, kind of like you said, to see the evidence that they bring to the table. Because I'm looking forward to it. Also, I'm looking to see what they actually have.
well, what we do know is the White House. Somebody up there has a cocaine problem, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the most memes I've seen with Jean Pierre in a long time. Um, so somebody's
He's
got some splaining to do.
and what's funny is I actually saw an article and they said that the police said they might not ever catch who had the cocaine in the White House, which I think is kind of insane because where they found it was near the Situation Room. So you're going to tell me that there was no cameras where the Situation Room is? I mean, we're talking about one of the most protected places in the United States, and there's not cameras where the cocaine was found. It just leads me more to believe that it was Hunter's cocaine. So
That's what I said from day one. Who has
it,
access to the Situation Room, right?
yeah,
There was
it's
probably a situation, and somebody dropped the bag on the way out.
they're gonna cover it up, that's for sure. My thing is if this happened under a Republican presidency, oh my lord, we would never hear the end of it.
Sure. No,
They would
it's
be on
just,
it for years.
and
It's pol-
I am all for, and I get this a lot. I am for decriminalization of small amounts of drugs, right? I don't believe we should be putting people in prison and feeding that whole monster, taking people's lives away for small amounts of drug possession. But in the White House on federal, I mean, that's as federal as federal property can get, right? Like I know many people who have went to prison over a joint, right, in their car, not on federal grounds, let alone having cocaine near the Situation Room, which again, not many have access. That's not an open part of the White House, right? The public doesn't go there, which means it was no doubt a staffer, Secret Service, um, or Hunter. So that's about. And who's got the record? I'm just saying. Um, so, anyways, it's gonna be crazy. Again, there's so much going on in that White House right now that's not making news like it should. Cluster bombs going to Ukraine, which a year ago Jen Psaki said was a war crime. We're now doing that, and so that happened. Um, I mean, and that was ultimately the decision of the president, right?
yeah.
And I don't understand what. Anyways,
There,
that's
there
a bad
there's
deal.
there's one thing that's really important about this administration, and I'm sure you saw it, but his naming of his economic Bidenomics. What's funny is they say that they put millions of Americans back to work, which is simply not true because millions of Americans are returning to work when they were laid off during COVID and the job shut down. Biden didn't create millions of jobs for Americans to go back to work. And I think that's really important in this next election cycle. And when we get our nominee for president, that they really point that out during debates, during campaign rallies, when they're talking to voters, that Biden didn't create millions of jobs, even if he's saying he created millions of jobs. Millions of Americans are going back to work. And that's really important, I feel like, because Biden's going to use that talking point in his reelection, and we've got to make sure that we are truly set forward on that issue and know the true facts about that issue so we can educate voters.
That is an amazing point, and you're spot on with that. They're going to use that as a campaign tactic. That they created these jobs, and there was a lot of jobs created. There's been a lot of jobs created out of infrastructure money, right? That didn't exactly go to infrastructure. It just created a job and another government employee. Um, so I think that's why we're seeing countries around the world erupt into riot. Right? They're tired of
Mm-hmm.
government overreach. They're tired of you know downright brutal tactics
Yeah.
on citizens. I mean,
And
I watched some videos on France that were pretty damn disturbing over the weekend
oh, yeah.
of policemen beating people in the streets without cause. They were women, children. It was pretty sickening.
And what wasn't it Brazil that had that huge protest after their election?
Yep,
I think so.
And that's still going on. It's not over.
Mhm.
We're just not hearing about it. There's still, I mean, almost a coup, if you will, or attempted coup, but it's still not over. So other countries as well. France, Brazil, Australia's been
Yeah,
going nuts for almost a year now,
and, and,
right?
and I know people in Canada have been going nuts for years.
I've got friends that got out. I've got friends that can't get out, because they can't sell their assets, their houses, their businesses. Right now, Canada Trudeau's been bowing to the feet of Beijing and Xi
Mhm.
Jinping for a long time, and I think COVID really brought that to light to many of the what I would consider still conservative Canadians, and they left. They got the hell out. They went to South
Yep.
America. They didn't come here. They went elsewhere, and rightfully so. Yeah, France, over a week now. It's still going on, and
Yeah,
really, it's been going on in cycles, but a week
yeah.
solid now.
Yeah, I've heard about France, and I've kind of seen the videos of France of what's going on in there, and it's actually really really sad what's going on in France, and I think that just comes along with during the Trump administration we actually had world peace. Now, once Biden got in office, we don't have world peace anymore. I mean, we have Russia attacking Ukraine, and we have stuff going on in France and Brazil. I mean, we literally had world peace under the Trump administration, but people failed to see that. So, and this is what we get. We get Joe Biden. So I'm hoping in this next election cycle that um, I think we can beat Joe Biden. I just feel that there's no way that someone's done this bad job at the presidency that's fallen multiple times during the presidency, and really can't speak, gets reelected as president. I don't see how that's possible. I mean, unless people are just really dumb, um, and they ultimately um, take away the election like we saw in 2020. So,
Unfair tactics can help offset
mhm.
the stupidity of the people. So,
Yep.
um, Lane, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. One more time, at where young
So
and all Americans can find your show.
Yep. So if all of you guys go to Patriot Chronicle Network on Rumble, you can find us there. Follow, subscribe. We have shows. We have shows weekly, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mondays and Fridays. So if you guys go follow and subscribe there, you can see all what we're doing as youth members in society and youth members of the conservative grassroots movement. And we're doing our part. So now all we need is the support from you guys.
Awesome. I love it. You keep doing everything that you are intending on doing, and you're an outstanding young man. I look forward to having you back on the show in the future. Until then, I'm Farmer Ryan. I will continue searching the past to grow a brighter future for everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Are we ready on the east?
Ready on the east.
Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.